Thanks for joining us, and particularly for joining us to watch the Mobilize documentary. It's an amazing film, very inspiring, tells the story of how a group of volunteers came together during COVID and have stuck together, looking at issues like corruption, energy, climate change, etc. I hope you enjoy it. It's intended to be inspiring and informative, and I hope you get both out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Basia Gumede, the director of Mobilize, the documentary. I didn't see this coming. I believe that the story chose me, and I believe the same for everyone that has worked on this project. This documentary is very, very important, very building, and makes us realize that there's so much more to be done for this country. There's so many people that are resilient, surviving on the bare minimum, and also still dedicated to build their communities. Those people need support. Those people's stories need to be told. I'm humbled to have been entrusted to tell these stories, and I am aware of the responsibility that comes with that trust. I hope that you will enjoy the story and take it to every corner of Earth after you've watched the documentary. Thank you.
I remember watching one of the global networks, seeing this new virus called Corona.
The first case of coronavirus in South Africa has been confirmed.
Italy saw its deadliest day from the coronavirus.
The World Health Organization has officially called it COVID-19.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
Coronavirus.
There are fears of a rapidly spreading virus.
This is a rapidly emerging situation.
And then it came here, and I was terrified. And then my immediate thought was my family. And then very quickly, my country.
South Africa, a land celebrated for its democracy and lauded for its reputation of being able to overcome a history filled with pain and injustice. Go direga eng ge naga ye e lebane le leuba la maphelo la lefase ka bophara?
When COVID hit, not just South Africa but the world, it completely disrupted the lives that we lived, and what we considered at the time as normal was completely disrupted.
The COVID-19 pandemic landed in South Africa at a time when the country was facing a 26% unemployment rate and troubling credit rating downgrades in March 2020.
When I first heard of COVID, I needed to know more. At this point, started watching the news, was completely horrified at the way this pandemic was being presented, being communicated. And whatever was being said on the news, I just couldn't, understand.
In a country with a diverse population of close to 60 million people speaking various languages, how would the messaging around the pandemic be communicated?
The Department of Health is here. We are testing for coronavirus.
So I watched this broadcast of the president in a suit speaking English, using scientific language.
Without decisive action, the number of people infected will rapidly increase.
The president was very static, the language was very highbrow.
We're putting in place measures to mitigate the economic impact both of this disease and our economic response to it.
Chris Vick put out a tweet that said, we need to, get people together to communicate better.
And as a communicator, my instinct was, we need to take that complex messaging. We need to make it plain language that is understandable.
People didn't know what was going on and people were getting scared. I don't remember what Chris said, but, I think he kind of put it together really well, what sort of the problem was. And he said to me he wanted to sort of set up a group of volunteers which would do a bit of country duty, come together, do some really clear, simple, plain language communications that explained what was going on with the pandemic, what people needed to know, and how to respond.
The impact of the pandemic on the average South African, already struggling to make ends meet in a strained economy, was starting to become evident.
The day I took ukudla kwami ngiya e-taxi rank, abantu bebengafuni ukusondela, abantu bebengafuni ukuthenga, because now there's this misinformation. So whatever that umuntu akayicabangayo, ngathi yiyo into right. So that's how I stopped my business. For some time we thought ukuthi angeke sibulawe yi-COVID, sizobulawa indlala.
Ge COVID-19 e beitše maphelo ditšhabeng tše ntši tša Afrika Borwa, go be go na le mabaka a mangwe ao a beago maphelo kotsing, ebile a sa le gona.
So we took a decision to set this thing up and give it a name, right? And COVID Comms was the easiest. I can't remember where it came from. David very quickly developed a logo, round circle with the little sticky things coming out of it.
It became clear in the first few weeks that we were putting together COVID Comms that what was needed in the space very urgently was the ability to gather information, put it together in very short, simple English, but even more importantly into different languages.
When we started producing in the different languages, there was a big sigh of relief. It wasn't easy, we made mistakes. Not everybody was as proficient in the different languages as we thought, and we did get some blowback, but it was a big highlight, making sure that the information now is getting on the ground.
The divisions of our society started to show. A young man who's an activist in Kliptown called me and he said, Tessa, I don't know what a lockdown is, but if it means that people can't be outside, the people in my community are going to starve within a week.
I wanted to see a change in my community. A lot of people became affected during COVID time. People lost their job, people lost financial income, and it became a huge problem because most of the people are working from hand to mouth.
People not only stepped up, but they did this work for free. During a lockdown, when a lot of people lost their jobs, particularly creative people, they stuck with us. I mean, we ran without funding for 14 months.
That spirit of South Africanism, that spirit of we can do this thing together, kicked in a very institutional way. Think tanks and comms companies like COVID Comms and the others had already started saying, wait a second, we want to come around. We know as government you might not have everything in your basket that you need, you know?
December 2020, we sort of did our first, I can't remember what we called it, but our sort of holiday campaign, where we did quite shocking graphics, you know, comparing crowded beaches to graveyards. And we got a lot of press attention for that. And then we heard that the Solidarity Fund was looking at us, the Community Constituency Front.
So the fund was immediately set up as a rapid response vehicle for South Africa to kind of respond to the pandemic.
It essentially provided a cushion and allowed us to grow the organization and do the sort of work that we'd wanted to do but couldn't quite afford, like the scale of translation. And I mean, the Solidarity Fund gave us that break.
We had to be very sensitive to culture. We had to be sensitive to language.
The relevance from a messaging point of view it really helped the nation, because you could then understand in simpler terms. They would use, for example, even street lingo. They would use messaging that was adaptable to the various and different groups. It was really relatable, and people could actually understand the essence of the message and the various themes that COVID Comms was driving at the time.
So we developed this video using the aubergine or a brinjal emoji. It was aimed at men. It was very much, are you worried that if you get the vaccination, your aubergine is going to droop?
Zinsizwa, asigomeni. Ingabe ukhathazekile ngokuthi umgomo uzophazamisa? Uthinike ngalokho. I-COVID kubantu besilisa iphazamisa inzalo. Amadoda asethelelekile anamathuba acishe abe ngu-20% ukuthi angabe sakwazi ukuzalisa. Noma uthinike ngalokho. I-COVID yehlisa futhi ihlakaza izinga le-DNA yembewu yowesilisa. Kodwa umgomo ungakuvikela lokho. Namanje usakhathazekile ngomgomo? Umgomo awubangela ukuthi kuphele inzalo, kodwa i-COVID iyona ebangela lokho. Goma, uhlala uphephile. Ngeminye imininingwane, ngena ku-covidcoms.org.za.
There was a lot of apprehension, a lot of distrust, a lot of misinformation about what the vaccines meant. I think South Africa was also getting influenced a lot by narratives in places like the USA.
There's no pandemic. Media is the cancer.
People are going to die. They're dying no matter what.
And from behavior change work we'd done before, we kind of knew that the answer to that is bidirectional. So instead of us just driving around the country and finding people to have conversations with, we used that opportunity to run 50 workshops.
We are here at Siapambili Skills and Talent Development Center, facilitating a workshop talking about COVID, getting their voice, getting their opinions about the COVID pandemic. What is their opinions?
And then took those COVID diaries of the people at the workshops as a way to sort of resource that campaign. And it was amazing.
Ladies, what happened to Sophie? Hey, COVID.
Material produced by COVID Comms, due to the support of the Solidarity Fund, reinforce the strategic objectives of the fund in reaching the most marginalized of the South African society.
We decided that we would focus the large part of our resources on the communities that were outside of the urban areas. without ignoring those who are in the urban areas. But we made the assumption, and I think it was a right assumption, that people in urban areas have access.
The efforts of COVIDcoms, together with other civil society organizations and labor, were in tandem with those of government.
Any top-class state has national disaster management machinery, it has security machinery. I mean, we've hosted a football World Cup. So I think in this case, as much as we may have had preparations or a sense of what we do when things like this happen as government, I think the scale and scope of this one was beyond what anybody could have comprehended.
I have had 3 deaths in the space of less than 2 hours.
The gazetting and enforcement of lockdown regulations further illuminated and exposed the existing fractures in the South African society.
Need to eat. How long have you had to queue?
Oh, don't ask me.
Don't ask me. Okay.
Sorry.
A long time.
Sorry. Long time.
Don't engage them, because if you engage them, they come to you, then they are breaking the law.
Things like you need to be in your yard. You can't be in your street, but you can be in your yard. If you live in an informal settlement, as 3 million households do in this country, what is your yard? What does that mean? As I was reading the regulations, I started realizing they are written for somewhere in Hyde Park.
Mawuphuma futhi ngoba sibaningi sisebenzisa 12A1 sibaningi sisebenzisa impompo A1 so mina somehow bekufika ngathi noma ngithi nyaka sanitizer ngiyenzeni mengiyothinta into ezithintwa nabanye abantu nakhona it feels like ngathi ngiyakubiza futhi lokugula lokho.
La isihlala khona there was no social distancing because sihlala kithi si8 and it's a 1-room house.
Beyond highlighting the economic challenges, prolonged periods of lockdown also led to increased cases of gender-based violence.
Yonke into nje kuvalelekile. Ababa abaningi sebazenzani sebazinceda la ebantwaneni. Engaya bayikhiphela phi sebayikhiphela ebantwaneni. Asawazi ukushiya umntwana nomalume, asawazi ukushiya umntwana nobabakhe. Even a biological father sakhona ukuthi manje arepe umntwana.
We had 2 choices, and we talked about it a lot, right? Lockdown is over, fatalities around COVID are down. Do we wrap up shop? The other option was to reconfigure it, to look at some of the other pandemics.
As the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic eased, South Africa's socio-economic challenges remained. COVIDcoms transitioned into Mobilize, an agency for change.
We thought we'd have a look at one of the real pandemics we're facing now, which is energy. And the comparisons with COVID are, if you think about them, are quite profound, right? The lack of energy kills people. People lose their jobs. People lose hope. It doesn't kill you in the same way that COVID does. But the energy shortage certainly kills, whether jobs, lives, or spirit.
Mom, why do our lights keep switching off?
Well, dear, it's not just us, it's the whole country.
At the same time?
No, silly. We just don't have enough electricity for everyone in the country to use at once. So we have to share. When they switch off our lights here, it means other people are getting a turn. And after a while, their lights switch off and it comes back to us.
Oh.
What we offer, I mean, we're a social enterprise. I can't think of Mobilize as an employer, but as a social enterprise, we offer a platform where every day is different. but every day is important and every day is making a difference. And I really respect the people who came in at the very beginning. David, day one. Raz Arnold, day one. Right? Tessa Dooms, day one. And they stuck with this project. But they stuck with this project primarily because it's important work and it's empowering work. And it's not often in the communication space that you get the kind of reward and feedback and encouragement that we get. I mean, it's something that we see throughout the Energy Comms project, is people feel abandoned by the state.
There's still no change. People are still using illegal electricity, which is, we are heading to 30 years of democracy, but there's no change within people's life. So are we voting for the right people now?
While COVID Comms, now Mobilize, is driven by making a positive change in the lives of South Africans, the work itself has had an impact on those doing the work.
Coming from a fees must fall kind of background where my activism was very confrontational, it has made me sort of grow up and start thinking more about how my activism is done and also what are people's experiences of different type of things.
In terms of the work, I think for me, they were able to mobilize and galvanize all various sectors and stakeholders around a common goal.
Mobilize, I think, is one of the most necessary agencies, communication agencies, but NGO agencies that we've had in the country for a while. And I think Mobilize's ethic has always been, we need to exist because there's a problem that we're responding to. The moment we're not responding to something that's real and urgent and tangible, then do we need to exist? And I think that Mobilize shows that good communicators have a valuable contribution to make in nation building.
There's a lot of young and energetic people in South Africa, and there's just been a general failure from all of us as society to tap into that energy.
Collaboration between communicators and in these organizations is critical because civil society is on the ground, civil society is in the communities. We sit in our, homes and on our internet, being unaware what is being faced on the ground. And that's why I feel that, the need for this sort of communication has grown even more after COVID because we still feeling, the aftermath of COVID.
The stories found through the COVID diaries not only served as a tool of messaging for the broader society, but also had a lasting impact on the Mobilize team.
I remember the stories. There's one that really resonated with me. It reminded me a bit of my dad, actually. There was a pastor, he was an old man, grey, he's the kind of guy which you go to and he always tells you everything's okay and how everything will be fine and he makes you feel better. He's got that energy to him. And I remember him talking about how for the first time in his life, COVID made him feel powerless.
It was very, very painful to see my own sister buried in a cotton.
And he didn't in the end say, go get the vaccine, but he said that we need to come together. We can't just let these things happen.
There are clear lessons South Africans can draw from in harnessing the power of collective effort around a common cause or causes.
I do think that the good old-fashioned traditions of human solidarity, unity, being there for one another, and the notion of Ubuntu really came to the fore.
I knew from the work I'd done that behavior change is not, it's cool to get vaccinated. If you get vaccinated, you're going to be a superstar. If you get vaccinated, it's not that. It's listening to people, making people know that you understand them, that you're a person too. that you're a person that's being honest with them and you have information that can help them look after themselves, and that you need to connect to people.
Our work is really driven by social justice more than anything else, and we really think that communication is a human right, as we saw during COVID, that you can really save lives by helping people with giving them the correct information.
The work is not done. What COVID-19 has done is remind us how the challenges faced by South Africa are deeper than the pandemic we have emerged from.
We're now in a situation where we're able to empower communities.
A lot of the comms conversations were about this high-level, very fancy messaging. And that's not what was going to build people's trust. There were real questions to be answered.
In the community research we've done, people say the water doesn't work. The clinic is closed because there's no staff. There are zamas running around because there are no police, right? So the social condition knocked by COVID, amplified by an absent state, is really creating this sense of disengagement.
I think that even if I didn't sit at the position that I did and saw their work, I would find it meaningful.
So it brought a lot of, sense of urgency. They also brought in a very good sense of thought leadership. I mean, Chris is a very seasoned strategic communicator from both the public and private sector. So they assisted a lot in helping shape some of our responses. Maybe we should rather approach a problem in this respect. This message might not go down well here, but I think the very significant contribution they made, and it was always something I enjoyed, and interestingly, it's something that we are really trying to fortify now in our government communication work.
I don't see the formation of COVID comms or energy comms as a reflection on government's inability. I don't think there's a government in the world that can manage the kind of communications challenges we have on its own.
We're very much entrenched in the communities that we work with. We don't partner with communities, but we are part of the community, if that makes sense.
They were able to place themselves at the center of a communications movement and be able to quickly identify the needs of communities and how to interpret those into programs and campaigns that were being responsive to the issues raised by those communities. I think that was very important.
I think the agility we had was really useful, but it needs to be matched with what government is supposed to do, right? We can't allow government to abdicate from its communications responsibilities.
They got to hear firsthand what people were experiencing and feeling, and also were able to quickly turn that into powerful insights that we as partners could use in our communication campaigns.
We have a societal obligation, if we've got skills, to make a difference and to enhance the communications project.
The challenges that we are faced with, as you know, there are many. No one single player would be able to deal with this. We do need a lot of collaboration. We need a lot of partnerships in various spheres, government, civil society, business.
I feel that there's more to be done from a communications point of view, and the need for an agency like Mobilize is great.
We are a resilient people. We are people that have hope despite all of the challenges. And we are people that look at the brighter side of things, despite all of the issues and the challenges we have.
There are a lot of community-based organizations, but they just don't know how to make themselves compliant when it comes to fundraising and for them to scale and grow. I think there's a massive opportunity for an organization like a Mobilize to identify those community-based organizations, So I'm talking about those ones that are run by abomama, nabobhuti in their communities.
Ultimately, we've got to change the way we see each other and change the way we relate to each other and escalate that as much as we can. So I'm still, at my age, a romantic revolutionary. But I think that what we have at our disposal now, tried and tested over 3 years, is a model that works, people that work. And if we could scale it up and if we could partner with the right people, the dream is that Mobilize becomes part of that national project to restore our soul.
I feel like there's such a big lack and gap of communication and education. Some people are just only focusing on surviving, but they don't understand that without knowing more, you can't be more. So being able to actually communicate that and help is such a big deal. And I'm especially proud of people who already are doing that. And being able to work with people like that, if we could even organize more people just to be able to spread communication awareness on any big major thing, whether it's COVID, whether it's now load shedding, any big crisis, because South Africa is facing so many crises. You know, they call it polycrises. But it was just nice to be involved like that and to help any community trying to do that. So, yeah.
I couldn't stop thinking about the 100,000 stories in our country about people feeling powerless, unsure, unsafe, and them being troubled to their core. And what are we doing? Talking about it. But it was part of it, I guess.